"Open the door, Mr. Thompson. Your wife is under arrest." The knock was relentless. Each hit a sharp percussion that made the photos on our living room wall tremble. Oakwood Heights at dawn was a gentle place. Kids on bikes, sprinklers sighing, dogs alert at strangers. That voice on my porch turned it into a scene from a cheap police drama. I cracked the door and found 4 men filling the threshold shoulder to shoulder. Their uniforms were deep navy, ironed to military creases. Sunglasses hid their eyes. Pistols were already out. No introductions, no badges flashed, only the kind of silence that announces a threat. "Step aside, sir. She's coming with us," the man in front said. His jaw was set, his tone flat as if this were routine business. Everything in me tightened. I dealt with authority before, but something was wrong from the first second. No name tags, no badge numbers, no paperwork. Just uniforms, guns, and a claim. Down the block a dog barked. Curtains twitched. Oakwood Heights was the sort of place where people noticed everything, and tonight everyone would notice this. "You've got the wrong house," I said, hand on the doorknob. "Or the wrong people." The leader didn't flinch. "Mr. Thompson, don't make this harder than it needs to be. Call her out now." Footsteps, soft and measured, crossed the hardwood behind them. My wife's voice answered, steady and calm. "Michael, what's happening?" "She says they're here for you," I muttered. She opened the screen door. Not in pajamas, not panicked. Sarah stepped out in a sheriff's uniform. Her badge flashed silver and honest in the sunlight. The faint static of her shoulder radio rode the morning breeze. The 4 men shifted. One's hand slipped on his pistol. Another cleared his throat. For the first time, their certainty fractured. Sarah didn't shout. She didn't have to. "You're pointing guns at my husband. Holster them now." The leader tried to recover his authority. "Ma'am, this doesn't concern." "Sheriff Sarah Thompson," she cut in, tapping her badge. "ID on my belt, dispatch on my shoulder. If you're real officers, you know who I am. If you're not, you're committing felony impersonation right now." Silence tightened. Somewhere across the street, a camera clicked. Old Mr. Jenkins had his phone out, recording. The neighborhood watched. Sarah clicked her radio. "Dispatch, this is Sheriff 214 Sierra. For unidentified subjects in dark blue at my residence. They claim a warrant for my arrest. Confirm any active orders." The reply came back loud enough to be heard on our porch. 214 Sierra. Negative. No warrants. Units en route. Copy. For impersonators. Color drained from the leader's face. He scanned the street like an escape route might have opened. His men looked suddenly less sure. The second officer muttered. The third avoided eye contact. The fourth froze like a prop in a bad movie. "You heard dispatch," Sarah said. "Drop your weapons. Put your hands where I can see them. Wait for my deputies. Or keep this up and you'll spend the rest of your day explaining yourself to a judge." In the distance, sirens rose, soft at first, then swelling fast. Real law was coming. I watched the men's stances change. Tighter jaws, twitching fingers, quick looks toward Laurel Avenue. The leader tried to bark another command. "Ma'am, we're not here to debate. You're under arrest. Step forward." "On what charge?" Sarah's voice was calm, her tone like a gavel. "Show me the paperwork. Show me who signed it. Or admit you have nothing." The morning sun reflected off cheap metal that passed for badges. Across the street, neighbors gathered. Mrs. Parker on her porch, robe flapping. The mail carrier paused with his satchel. Phones rose. Oakwood Heights had become a stage and everyone was recording. The second man's voice softened. "Sir, please move aside. Don't make this harder. You came onto my property, aimed guns at me, and threatened my wife. It's already hard," I said. Sarah stepped forward. "Gentlemen, impersonating law enforcement, brandishing firearms, attempted kidnapping. That's a long list. The sirens mean you won't be explaining this to me. You'll be explaining it to deputies." The leader's bravado began to crumble. He raised his pistol a notch, but the other's resolve wavered. One lowered his weapon. Another shuffled back. The fourth stared at his boots. Then Gregory Allen arrived. Khakis pressed, polo tucked in too tight, clipboard clutched like armor. HOA president, newsletter king. He marched into the scene, chest puffed. "This is outrageous," he barked. "You can't cart them off. They were here on official business." Sarah's eyes cut to him. "Official business? They're compliance officers," Gregory insisted. "Hired by the community to enforce rules when residents ignore notices." A murmur ran through the crowd. Phones angled toward Gregory now, too. Sarah's tone went brittle. "Real compliance officers don't wear dark blue, don't point loaded weapons at people on private property, and they don't present forged warrants. That's a felony. Did the board pay for this?" Gregory's face flushed. He tried to backpedal, but the neighbors were seeing something new. A man who'd traded quiet authority for a dangerous shortcut. Before anything else could be said, chaos erupted. One of the imposters, the youngest, scar down his cheek, broke from a deputy's sloppy grip and lunged for Sarah. He had his cuffed hands swinging, a wild look on his face. "You're coming with us, Sheriff," he howled. Time compressed. I watched the metal flash on the cuff. Sarah moved like someone who had done this 1,000 times. She stepped, caught his arm, twisted. A bone snapped. He hit the porch, face first, cuffed and helpless. Sarah drove her knee into his shoulder, ripped a cuff from her belt, and locked his hands tight. "Attempted assault on a sheriff," she said calmly. "Add it to the list." The crowd erupted, cheers, shouts, phones clicking. Deputies surged, secured the man properly this time. The fight drained out of him. 2 patrol cars roared up, lights splashing red and blue across lawns and porches. Deputies poured out, weapons ready, authority undeniable. "Drop the guns!" one barked, and the imposters, caught between a collapsing act and real law, surrendered. Metal hit concrete. Cuffed hands, slammed doors, the sound of truth putting fiction away. Sarah climbed back onto the porch, badge gleaming. "You all saw it," she told the neighborhood. "These men tried to arrest your sheriff with forged authority and loaded weapons. That stops today. Whoever sent them," she looked at Gregory, "will answer for it." Gregory shrank under 100 camera lenses. Once the neighborhood's unquestioned leader, now suddenly exposed. Deputies kept him close. His clipboard didn't hide anything. As the imposters were booked, no IDs, no departmental markings, weapons confiscated. Sarah told the sergeant to stack the charges. Impersonation, unlawful detainment, brandishing, attempted assault. Questions hung in the heavy air. Who hired them? How did they get uniforms? Why target Oakwood Heights? Sarah met my eyes, and in that look I understood. This wasn't just defense. It was exposure. She wasn't merely protecting her family. She was revealing who the real threat was. The men in blue were a symptom. Someone had paid to bring them here. More cruisers arrived. Deputies read rights. Phones uploaded video. Neighbors nodded, relieved and raw. Gregory's last protests dissolved into the hum of law taking over. Standing there on my porch while the scene unfolded, I felt a chill settle in my gut. For imposters in fake uniforms had been stopped. But this was only the opening move. Somebody with power and money had decided to test our street, and they'd picked the wrong house, the wrong morning, and the wrong sheriff. Oakwood Heights would sleep uneasily that night. And by morning, the answers we needed would begin to surface. The cruisers pulled away one by one, carrying the imposters in the back seats. Their fake uniforms wrinkled, their heads bowed. The neighborhood was still buzzing. Neighbors clustering in knots on the sidewalks, whispering, arguing, replaying the footage on their phones. Gregory Allen lingered at the curb, his clipboard sagging like dead weight. Deputies kept him corralled, not cuffed, but not free either. The man who'd once barked about lawn heights and mailbox paint was now the focus of more suspicion than the thugs who'd just been hauled off. Sarah stayed on the porch, arms folded, radio crackling softly. She wasn't grandstanding. She didn't need to. Every neighbor could see the truth in the way she carried herself. This wasn't the HOA's stage anymore. It was hers. One of the deputies, A tall woman with a sharp gaze approached. "Sheriff, county investigators are on their way. You want us to take Alan in?" "Not yet," Sarah said, her voice low but firm. "But no one lets him out of sight." Gregory's face twitched like he'd swallowed something sour. "This is an outrage. I represent the homeowners here. The board will." "The board didn't authorize felonies," Sarah cut him off. "And the board won't protect you from them." The crowd murmured. Phones caught every syllable. Gregory's authority was bleeding out, minute by minute, pixel by pixel. Sirens faded down Laurel Avenue as the last cruiser turned the corner. The block settled into a tense hush. Even the kids had stopped whispering behind curtains. Oakwood Heights was listening. Sarah stepped down to the pavement, facing the neighbors who'd gathered. "I know you're scared. I know you're angry. You should be. But you're also safe now. The men who tried the stunt are in custody. More units will be patrolling here until we know exactly who sent them." A hand shot up in the crowd. Mrs. Parker, still in her robe, her phone trembling in her hand. "But Sheriff, what if there are more? What if they come back?" Sarah didn't hesitate. "Then they'll find me waiting." It wasn't bravado. It was fact. And the neighbors knew it. The tension broke into a ripple of applause, then cheers. People shouted their support, their relief, their anger. Gregory flinched at each cheer like it was another nail in his coffin. But under the relief, I felt something else gnawing at me. The imposters hadn't been amateurs. They'd been organized. Uniforms, weapons, a plan to take Sarah alive. That wasn't random. That was ordered. Paid for. Authorized by someone who thought they could get away with it. And if Gregory Allen was just the face we could see, then the real danger was whoever stood behind him, pulling strings we hadn't even glimpsed yet. Sarah caught my eye again, just for a moment, and I knew we were thinking the same thing. Tonight was only the beginning. The crowd eventually thinned. Neighbors drifted back to their houses, some still whispering, some still filming updates for whoever would watch. But the energy in Oakwood Heights had changed. The quiet suburb with neat lawns and cookie-cutter mailboxes suddenly felt like the center of a storm. Gregory Allen stayed boxed in by deputies, his clipboard pressed to his chest like a shield that no longer worked. He kept muttering about bylaws and board votes, but nobody was listening. Not his neighbors, not the deputies, not even himself. The imposters were gone, but the damage they'd left behind was just beginning to sink in. Sarah had exposed them, dismantled their performance in front of the whole block. But I knew what she knew. For men don't just wake up one morning and decide to impersonate police officers. They'd been hired, equipped, sent. When the last cruiser rolled away, the street fell quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence where you can almost hear the questions hanging in the air. Sarah stepped back onto the porch beside me. She didn't speak right away, just scanned the street like a soldier taking stock of a battlefield. Finally, she said, "This isn't over." I nodded. Gregory's a pawn," she said, voice flat. "Someone handed him money, told him this was compliance, and he believed it. But whoever's really behind this," she trailed off, eyes narrowing at the end of the block, "they'll try again." I felt the weight of her words settle in my chest. Oakwood Heights wasn't safe because it had been attacked. It was safe because it had a sheriff who lived here. And tonight that made our front porch both a fortress and a target. Across the street, Mr. Jenkins lowered his phone, his face pale but determined. "Don't worry, Sheriff," he called. "We've got your back." Others chimed in, a small chorus of voices, a neighborhood no longer watching from behind curtains, but standing in the open. For the first time that morning, I realized this wasn't just Sarah's fight. It was all of ours. The sun climbed higher, spilling light across red brick and trimmed hedges, but I couldn't shake the feeling creeping in my gut. The men we'd seen were only the beginning. Whoever had sent them would be smarter next time, richer, more dangerous. And as Sarah stood there, badge glinting in the daylight, her eyes locked on the horizon, I understood the truth. This wasn't just about 4 men in fake uniforms. It was a declaration, and the war for Oakwood Heights had just begun.